Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. As you can see, this time we're looking at a Spectrum Plus. Got a few of these to look at, yeah, 3 or 4. I've gone through all these and tested them one by one. This one was one I've marked with, I put video/modular noisy, and you'll see what I mean. It's the TV's in tuning mode at the moment, so I apologise for that big box there. I don't want to pre-program this particular channel in at the moment, so I've just left it on there. That's as good as it gets. But if I sort of hit the return key, in fact, yeah, there you go, hit a few keys, you can see it's doing stuff. Not sure the delete key's working, maybe some of the keys on the keyboard aren't working, I don't know, maybe we've got a problem with input as well as, maybe it's even a ULA problem, I honestly don't know. So I'll start by stripping this down and we'll have a look at the insides. So it's worth noting I'm just using the Spectrum Plus 2 power supply here. It's got the same polarity. It might not provide enough current, or it might be a bit more current than it actually needs. I honestly don't know. I've not checked the specs of the power supplies there. I know that if you check out Jules per Coulomb's channel, you'll see he's covered the 3 or 4 or 5 different Spectrum power supplies, and he talks about the current capacity and all the rest of it and the differences between them. So in order to get inside this, yeah, it looks like there's screws around the edges, certainly. I think there's that one there, possibly. I'll remove that as well. I'll just put these up. Yeah, there's nothing under there. It's in pristine condition, this. It really is. It just needs a good clean. I think if I get this one working, this is going to be the one that I keep for myself, because there's very little in the way of marks and things on it. But I've got 4 or 5 others to choose from. As you'll see in some of the future videos. But anyway, whip the lid off now, we'll have a look at the board inside. So once you've got the screws out, just carefully lift the top up here, and you'll see inside you've got these little ribbons to disconnect, so just try and do this carefully. I think you can lift the keyboard forward a bit like that, actually, yeah, makes it a little bit easier. Hopefully these won't disintegrate on me. Should just hopefully pull out. Good grief, that's fragile. And the same thing with this one here. Move that keyboard out of the way. There we go, get to the board. This is the first time I've ever been inside a Plus, or certainly from memory. I might have been in one when I was in the trade. I honestly can't remember. But it's just a normal board. This is a 48K board. I think, in fact, I'm convinced, if memory serves, Sinclair came out with an offer where you could actually upgrade your rubber key model up to one of these, and that's exactly how, you know, they just took the board out your 48K model, stuck it in here, stuck a couple of wires on for the reset switch, and everything just lined up. You know, you got this extra space here for the feet and stuff, but effectively it's exactly the same. You just got the solid keyboard really with a slightly more tactile buttons. They're not much better actually, the keys on these, but certainly better than the rubber ones, that's for sure. So yeah, very interesting. So I think one of the things, while I'm here, one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to check a few things first, check the voltages. Maybe there's something wrong with the 12 volts on this. Maybe we've got some noise or something, I don't know. I'm just looking at, oh there, can you see that? Has it got a bit of heat shrink around here? Yeah, heat shrink around one of the legs. It's a bit odd the way that's mounted. I don't remember seeing one like that before. It's got some pretty old caps on here, so it might need recapping. Could be a cap issue. Yeah, I got the ROM there, I think. CPU 7805. There's your inductor again, your transformer for your 12 volts. And 9 volts. I don't know if these use 9 volts. I know the Plus 2 does. Sorry, not 9 volts, minus 5 volts. Yeah, there's no serial ports on these, is there? So it probably doesn't. But I'm guessing the 12 volts is perhaps used for the video or something. What else have we got? Yeah, so you've got your DRAM down here. I think this is your initial 16K, is it? And then you've got 32K here, I think. Is that right? Yeah, 48K, that's right. yeah, modulator. So I think one of the things I'm going to do with this as well, as I say, I'll check the voltages and stuff first, check some of the basics. Just wondering what that is. Oh look, yeah, I'll stick that back down. Digressing again, do the composite mod to this. I forgot what you do. There's a wire, you can cut I think this track here, there, or it might be that one there, I can't remember, so that it's not outputting RF, and then you just feed the wire, you know, to lift the lid off this and feed the wire into the centre pin of where that normally goes out, I think. Something along those lines. I think you might have to cut it internally as well. But I will do that as well, so that this is composite. But I'd rather try and work out why the video is so screwed up before I go down that road, because there's a reason for that, and it might just end up being capacitors, I don't know. So anyway, I'll get my meter out and just have a bit of a look around. Right, I've had a measure around and everything appears to be okay. I suspect there's something wrong with the modulator, or there's certainly something around here. Transistors measure alright, maybe something wrong with this chip, I don't know. I've swapped out the ULA just to rule that out. No issues there, it's still the same. But I think what I'm going to do, because I want composite on this anyway, I'm just going to take a chance and I'm going to disable the modulator. Cut the, I think I'll desolder the pin to the +5 rather than cut it. And then take this wire here, remove that from the board as well, desolder that resistor there that's connected to the output terminal, and then just have a little wire link, you know, from this point here straight into the output, and that should do the trick, I think. But I don't want to cut anything, you know. I want this to be easy, you know, so you can revert it quite easily. So I will desolder these the points down here rather than you know, cut them. And the same with that resistor. I'll heat it and try and pull the resistor across out of the way. Perhaps use a bit of tape or something, I don't know, or some heat shrink tubing or something, just to isolate things. So I'll have a go at that now. Right, my suspicions were correct. As you can see, that's a composite, so that's working really sweet. And I'll just show you what I've done. I haven't finished doing this. I just need to put a bit of some insulation of some sort to separate these things, just to make sure that they're not going to do any future damage. And you can see this. I'll see how close I can get. Yeah, that's not too bad. Just disconnect the power. I don't want to be touching this while it's on. But as you can see, this is where the 5 volts went in, and I just soldered that. So I'll just stick a bit of heat shrink tubing, or maybe a bit of insulation tape around that or something, just so it's not going to go anywhere. And then the connection that came down to here, again, I desoldered it rather than cutting it. And at the moment it's just folded against this piece of plastic here, so it's not going anywhere. Again, I'll just put a tiny piece of insulation tape on that, and then inside the actual modulator itself, so if I get this to focus a little bit better, the resistors you can see here came across there originally, and I've just bent it out the way here. So again, I'll just put a tiny piece of insulation tape around and over that, and the wire, I've just used a tiny bit of K&R because it's nice and thin, and then I should be able to fit the modulator lid back on there without you know, trapping the wire or putting any sort of excess pressure and stuff. You know, it should sit straight. That's the point I'm trying to make there. But that's it. There's nothing wrong with this one. I'll get my Div IDE configured for 48K mode and just give it a bit of a test now. I think I might need to do some work on the keyboard actually, because one or two of the keys didn't seem to be working. So maybe there's another fault with this. Maybe it needs a new keyboard inlay. You know, the actual mylar part, whatever it is. You know, the internal to the keyboard there. I've got no idea. But yeah, just for now, I'll just tidy it up, put the modular lid back on, reassemble it, and we'll have a play with it. Well, after reconnecting the keyboard there, that all works fine, so I can only assume there was a loose keyboard connection. Every single key is working. I've tested it, as you can see. If I do QWERTY, hang on. Oh, hang on, the Q's. Oh yeah, the Q. Yeah, Q's working. Yeah, everything's working. I've gone through every single key, so I'll just get the Div IDE on there. So the interesting thing with this one is this does not work with the Div IDE. There's nothing wrong with it, as far as I can tell. It could be a RAM fault actually, now I think about it, so I need to do some more testing on this, but it doesn't work with the Div IDE. Now I do know that some of these Z80s, especially the early ones, had problems with the M1 line. I think maybe they failed during testing and they just sold them regardless. because it wasn't used at the time, I don't think. There was no reliance on it. So there's quite a lot of these out there. If you look at Lotharak's website, the seller of these dividees, you know, he does talk about, you know, there's a potential you could be one of the unlucky few that's got a Z80 with a dead M1 line. And I suspect that that's what's going on here. I mean, I've just double checked the voltages again, and we've got the -5, we've got the +12, we've got the +5. Everything's fine, you know, the logic's fine, the composite video signal's perfect. So I do think that, you know, until I've done more testing, I can't be conclusive, but it looks like there's a problem with the M1 line, I think. It's going to be a bit tricky. I need to get my iPhone onto this to try and load a game, I think. So that previous one, I've just marked it up for the moment, put it to the side. I need to do some work with the Z80. I think I'll socket the Z80 and swap it out. I've got a spare, just to see if, you know, I'd like to get confirmation, my own peace of mind, that that is what's wrong with that, and it'll make it a bit easier for testing if I can get the dividee working with that. So this is one I've marked OK, so I'll just quickly tear this down, give you a quick look inside. There's not much to show. I'm going to do the same thing, composite mod. Well, this looks like a newer revision board. Yeah, 4S. You can see it's a completely different manufacturing process as far as I can see. And you've got this green solder mask paint or something over everything, which is new. And they've got better. These ribbons look a bit better. Although, can you see they got a funny colour? You can see that, how well that's going to show up just to the reflectiveness of the light there on that. See if we can get a slightly different angle. But because some of the traces go dark, it's like corrosion or oxidisation or something's got in there. But anyway, yeah, this one seems to work, but I just wanted to have a quick look really to see if there'd been any fixes, what revision board it was, and that sort of stuff really. It's an interesting 7805 there. It's got a sort of slanted top part there. I've never seen one like that before. But yeah, very interesting. So yeah, I'll do the exact same thing to this composite mod, and then give it a full test. Just to make sure everything's working. But I have tested the dividee with this one. This one does work, so at least I know there's no compatibility issues with the Plus model and the dividee. It is something to do with the machine, and I think it's the M1, as I say, on the CPU. Right, I'll do the composite one now. Right, well, this has been out of here at some point. If I just show you, you can see that's cracked. There was no screw in there, and that's cracked, and the screw is just barely hanging in. So yeah, I'm going to put some super glue into those and hold them in position, let it dry. At least then I can just put the one screw back in, and I'll find one for the other side as well, actually, I think. And the backs of those have been sheared off as well, so I don't know how the hell that's happened, because the rest of the case is okay. But if we look at the underneath of the board here, you can see all this flux on the CPU. That CPU's been swapped out at some point in the past. It could be at factory, maybe it was tested and failed quality control or something. It could have been done, you know, sort of after it's sold. I've got no idea. And that speaker, look at that, it's like bent upwards, so I'll straighten that out as well. Not sure what's going on there. I've got the feeling it's probably the solder contacts there aren't allowing it to go down very far, so I'll probably just heat those up a bit and flatten it a little. Just because you're not going to get the same sort of sound distribution when it's up at a funny angle like that. Some of it's going to be reflected internally within the case, where you know, normally it wouldn't, perhaps as much. So I just thought I'd show you here what I've been doing with these. You know, just putting a bit of tape. You know, let's say removing the wires. You know, not removing them, but soldering them to the board, the bottom, so they're still there, still connected to the modulator, so they're really easy to reconnect. And just putting a bit of tape around them. In both positions there, and then a tiny bit of tape around the head of that resistor wire, the lead on the resistor there, and that's it. And just using this single bit of K&R there just to join it up. At least that can then be reverted should anyone want to revert back to the modulator. There we go, smallest amount of heat on one side and a little bit of pressure while at the same time, and it just went straight down flat, so that's fine. I'll now reassemble this one and give it a test. Just a quick tip here, when you've got these split screw mount positions like that, sometimes using something like a cable tie like this, a really thin one, depends where the board fits with regards to the mounting, but I'll just see if I can get a slightly better angle of this, just so you can see a little bit more of what I'm doing. There we go. Not only is this useful just temporary to hold it while it's gluing. But ultimately, that will stop the thing splitting again. I've got to tighten these. Sometimes the best way to do this is to just pull it with some pliers like that, twist it, just to get it absolutely tight. Yeah, you see, so that's really tight now. We just snip the end off there. If I can, these cutters are not very sharp. There we go. That will now mean that should never happen again, and with a bit of excess glue on there, that'll probably hold that in place anyway. So yeah, the worst that can happen is it might be lifted a tiny bit, which I think it is, by a millimetre, just due to the edge of that cable tie there, but that is not going to affect anything really. It's not going to affect the orientation of the slot or the connectors and things at the back, because it is just at the front. So that's something I recommend, where you've got something like this where there's a propensity, you know, once this gets into the postal system, I could just imagine that board just, you know, shearing off and floating around, and you just don't want a board floating around inside like that. So there we go, that's that. There we go, I managed to find a spare screw. Because one of the units is going to be beyond really. The keyboard's knackered, absolutely knackered. There's keys missing on it, so I'm going to be keeping one of the spares. So I'm not bothered about losing a screw out of that one. When I sell this one, I'd rather it went out with all of the parts and stuff, and the board held in place properly, you know. So there we go. That's that. It's looking quite tidy. So I'll just get the lid back on, and we'll just give this a blast with the Divide E. There we go, nice clean picture again. So Composite's it's looking pretty sweet. So here you go, you can see we've got R-Type up here. Redefine keys, left, right, up, down, quiet, detached. Sorry you can't hear this, it's just because the internal speaker is very quiet. Sweet. Good use of colour on this game, with Spectrum. It's managed to get away without too much attribute, if any, attribute clash. I remember seeing this in the magazines leading up to its release on Spectrum, and sort of, you know, anxiously waiting for it to be released. And when I saw, you know, the screenshots, it's just like, wow, that's a Spectrum game. Because often they're very monochrome, aren't they? Famous yellow and green, purple. Must have had a fixed palette, I don't know, it's something I never looked into the Spectrum. I suspect it did. Having said that, a lot of Commodore 64 games are very similar, they've got the same palette as well, I think. It might even be the same with the NES. Sweet, anyway, that's working. Let's just try something else. I'll go back to the Divide E menu. Let's load something else. What should we load? Now, I'm not sure if some of these are going to work. It's worth pointing out that some of these games on the Divide E won't work in 48K, and it's not that they're not the 48K versions, it's because they've been loaded, and you know, the snapshots and memory from 128K version. I think that's what's going on, because one or two of the games, like Target Renegade, that I can just load it on my Plus 2 and it works fine. It won't work on here, and I'm damn sure that's what it is, because I load a different version, a different type of file, and it works fine. I've not got a joystick plugged in here, so let's do options 1, keyboard. Oh god. Can't really find QAOP space here, remember that. Enter. So it's QAOP space, yeah, it's not too bad, QAOP space actually. Good use of colour again there. I remember playing these Dan Dare games, they were quite fun. I didn't have this one, I think it was the second or third Dan Dare game I had, probably Dan Dare 2. Can you go down there? It's a snapshot in it, so it's already mid-game, I think, by the looks of things. Let him die. There's a QA entry space? No, it's not. What is it? Yeah, it's like Cursor or something, or Sinclair. Set to the moment because it's the numbers along the top, which I can never master because they're all in a straight line. I know I've said it before in other videos, just be mindful of the fact that you just need to when you put the screws back in these Spectrum cases, just do it really lightly. You don't need to you know, it's not like this thing's going to burst apart or something if they're not mega tight. They just need to be, you know, screw it until you get some resistance at the bottom, and then just keep going a tiny bit until you know you're hitting enough resistance there that it's in as far as it's going to go without any, you know, without you forcing it, because they will, you know, you will break damage the threads on the plastic case here because it's brittle. You know, they were never good even back in the day. I do remember. So like, yeah, so that's at the bottom. That's it. There's resistance there now, so I ain't even going to try and force it. And then they go back in, it holds together, and it'll last, you know, another 20 or 30 years. So there we go. I'll just clean this one up. That one's all done. So the next one I thought I'd look at here is this one. As you can see, yeah, keyboard's seen better days, and it's pretty dirty. I tested this initially. I got a display, a Sinclair logo and everything, Sinclair Research, but the keyboard was completely dead. So I'm just gonna, I have just unscrewed this actually to borrow the screw off this one for that other one. So we'll just move the keyboard out of the way, and I'll stick this keyboard, which I suspect was one that looked okay, and we'll give it a try. But before I do that, I'm just going to move these screws out of here. Just count them, just make sure I've got them all. Yep, that's correct. And we'll connect this keyboard up and give this a try. Yeah, so there we go. You can see that's using RF at the moment, and it's very much like a lot of these. They've got really flaky RF signals, and I think that's in part because I think the digital transmissions are now sort of using some of those analog frequencies. Could be wrong, but I've certainly found that since we switched over to digital here in the UK, RF is pretty much unusable for things like this, because I think you are getting background noise from some of the digital channels, and it might be other things, other electronic equipment as well. I don't know, that's interfering Wi-Fi and various other things. No idea. I do know that these were not designed, you know, there's no shield or anything. They were not designed to handle RFI, you know, background noise from some of today's modern devices, that's for sure. So if I just test the keyboard, I'll just show you this. Yeah, it's now working. It was completely dead, so I'll test every key. I'll do the composite mod. A, S and D, hang on, some of them are not working. A, S, D, F, and G are not working. So, okay, not sure if we've got a missing connection on the matrix, or whether it's some dirt or something on the board. Yeah, every other key seems to be working. Yeah, it's just those few. So I'll investigate that further as well. Right, well, it's very annoying, but 3 of these keyboards need new membranes. I'll just show you if I can. This one's probably the easiest. If I shine some light through this ribbon here, you might be able to see. Can you see? It's like deteriorated. Right, that's what's wrong with these. This one's the worst one. It's completely dead, this one. And some of them have actually deteriorated inside the actual, you know, in here as well. It's a pain in the butt. So looking at another Spectrum Plus here. Interesting, you can see that chip there's been swapped out previously, socketed. ULA's always socketed, but the CPU's been socketed, so maybe that's been swapped out as well. Very interesting. But there's been some corrosion on this. The keyboard was knackered, you know, because there was a little corrosion. There's a lot of corrosion. All the screws are rusted. You can see some rust down here, and some of these tracks here look a bit corroded. So, and it gives weird coloured blocks. There's quite a lot of corrosion actually. You can see it all the way down here. It's in various places on the board. So I'm going to need to take this one out and give it a really good examination, and just do some continuity checks and things. Looks like there's some corrosion up here as well, so let's just take it out. It's out actually. Let's have a look underneath. Got some corrosion on the modulator here. Oh god, what a nightmare. Corrosion on the voltage regulator there. So yeah, no idea. Anyway, I'll have a more thorough look. Look at that ULA there. Look at those pins there. Can you see that? Black. So very interesting. OMFG. Seriously, look how bad the corrosion is here. It's absolutely shot. That light's not helping, is it? But yeah, as you can see, there's an awful lot of corrosion on the back end here. There seriously is. So, and it probably extends down to some of these traces around here as well. Yeah, that's got to be what's wrong with this, I think. There could be another fault with it as well. It could have been stored, you know, maybe a RAM fault. It's displaying coloured random sort of blocks and things, you know. But I'll clean this up anyway and do a load of connectivity checks and things, and see what I can find, if anything. Well, this is almost certainly going to be a spares board. I've spent quite a bit of time, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours messing around with this, cleaning this up. I've done the composite mod anyway. I'll show you what's happening now. Actually, I've just switched this on. Yeah, just random coloured blocks and stuff, and it's a bit noisy. There's tons of moisture under the modulator. I've never had a modulator off on one of these, so I'm not sure whether there's any traces under there. If there is, as you can see, look how corroded that is. If there's anything under there, they're going to be shot. I don't think there would be. It'd be unusual to route them that way. But there is so much corrosion. There's corrosion all around the ULA. Taking the ULA off, cleaned up the pins. You know, one of them was half corroded. The bottom of the pin's missing because it's so much corrosion. Corrosion under the CPU. When they've taken that CPU off there, no one's even. Can you see the bits of solder on the sides of the chip? They haven't even cleaned it up. So it's like really hard getting that in and out. But the socket is just again corrosion in there. You can see I've had the wire brush onto here. The corrosion's that heavy. It just wouldn't come off, and it's the same here. You know, all along here. All these traces, and it's, you know, it's spread up the board the way, all around these jumpers and things here for the memory configuration, all around here, around the clock. All of these components I've cleaned up the edges of. There was corrosion all around those, corrosion all around here, corrosion on this edge, corrosion all the way down by the drum. The voltages are okay. That's one of the first things I checked on this. I've got plus 12, plus 5, minus 5. That's all okay. So yeah, it's just, you know, it's just tons and tons of corrosion. What I think I might do is take that CPU off, clean it up, socket that other board, the one with the not working with the div IDE, and swap the CPU over. You know, so that one's got a good one with a good M1. But I think this is just going to be a spares board. I think the ULA's all right. I'll test that in a minute in the other board. But yeah, it's a bit beyond this really. Maybe it's a RAM fault, I don't know. I suspect it's probably had a fault and then it's been stored somewhere and got all this corrosion. So it just isn't worth the time, it really isn't. You're better off just using this for the few spares on there that might be worth salvaging. Maybe the DRAM, it's got a ROM on it, that there, I'm not even sure what that is, some sort of video encoder or something I think. Beyond that, you know, it's just not worth it. It's not worth the time and effort. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.